Hi everyone, welcome back to the Des Moines Bike Collective's video series. Today we're going to go through how to re-grease a bottom bracket. So right off the bat, the bottom bracket is kind of a confusing term because it refers to two separate things. The first is the shell on the frame of the bike where the bottom bracket assembly actually installs to. So this part of the frame of the bike is called the bottom bracket, and the assembly that holds the crankset onto the bike is also called the bottom bracket. You usually just kind of have to figure it out based on context. So most of the time, when we start to refurbish a bike, this is what the bottom bracket looks like. You can see that there's a bunch of rust on the bearings and on the bottom bracket spindle here, and obviously this is not going to be conducive to a smooth riding experience. So next to it over here, we have a bottom bracket that's been cleaned up. All the rust has been removed, and you can see that the ball bearings are now nice and shiny. So that's going to reduce a lot of friction and drag that might be occurring in this system. Over here, we have a bottom bracket that has already been re-greased, and you can see all of the fresh green grease in there that's going to reduce even more friction between the ball bearings and the bottom bracket spindle. Now, on the bike, I have already installed the drive side cup, so you don't have to watch me screw it in. This drive side cup is fully flush with the bike, and the reason for that is that the chain rings on the crankset go on this side. So we want as little stuff sticking out that could possibly interfere with this as possible on this side. So the next thing I'm going to do is install the bottom bracket spindle. Now, most spindles like this have a different length from the shoulder to the square taper. It's longer on one side than it is on the other. And again, the reason for that is you need a little bit more room on one side so that the chain rings have a little bit more room between where the bottom bracket spindle comes out of the frame and the frame shell itself. So I've identified that this side is a little bit longer, and I'll go ahead and install that so that it's on the drive side. Next thing I'll do is take my freshly greased bottom bracket cup and screw this in on the non-drive side. Now the reason that this cup is adjustable is because we want to get it to a point where the bottom bracket spindle doesn't have any lateral play, but it does still allow the spindle to spin freely. So, looks like I found that sweet spot right there. There's no lateral play. I'm trying to wiggle the bottom bracket spindle up and down and back and forth, and I can't move it, but it does still spin freely. So, in order to hold it in that position, I'm going to use the bottom bracket lock ring. This lock ring screws onto the outside of the cup and goes flush against the frame to hold it in place. I'll use my lock ring wrench to tighten it down. But if I tighten it down just by itself, it will tighten the cup in and make the spindle not be able to spin as freely. So I'm going to immobilize the cup with my other wrench and tighten the lock ring against it. In this manner, I'll keep that even tension on the bearing so that there's no play in the spindle, but it also spins nice and smooth. At this point, I'll be able to reinstall the crankset by sliding it onto the bottom bracket spindle and tightening in the crank bolt. So that's how you re-grease and repack a bottom bracket. Thanks for watching this instructional video, and stay tuned for more.